It must be rough to be Disney right now, whether it be losing over $1 billion cumulatively on their last several releases, to having new rival studios built up by the likes of, say, the Daily Wire, purely to rival Disney and what they've been doing to their fans and their franchises as of late, to now having an entire animation studio, nay, an entire culture criticizing and lambasting Disney for forgetting what is important when it comes to art. That's right, welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and the creator of Gundam, one of the most famous and long-running anime of all time, has put Disney on blast for losing the magic, stating anime must not repeat Disney's mistakes. What are Disney's mistakes? Well, we're gonna find out. Before we do, hit that subscribe button. We just got over the 2,000 subscriber hump, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Going into 2024, we're gonna grow even more, and to do that, I need you to hit the button. Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino says, anime must not repeat Disney's worst mistake. What is Disney's worst mistake, you may ask? I mean, Disney's made a lot of mistakes lately, whether it be meddling in the productions of their movies by saying stupid things like the movies now need more executives on site. That's the problem, you know, taking more creative control away from the individuals that are making the films, to that creative control allowing individuals to put in a bunch of agenda-ridden messages that, let's be real, aren't safe for kids, to just being flat-out boring remakes and rehashes of movies we've seen and stories we've been told a million times, to the point to where nobody actually thinks there's anything beyond nostalgia pandering to Disney films. But let's see what of all of these myriad of problems Yoshiyuki Tomino has to say about Disney. It seems Japanese creators are catching on to the low-performing creations of the Western world, in particular Disney, as the creator of Gundam recently stated that the anime industry mustn't repeat their worst mistake. And let's be real, this has been a pretty massive year for Japan. You heard me talk about this on the channel time and time again. We've had some bangers hit the box office purely from Japanese IPs. Godzilla Minus One and The Boy and the Heron are destroying at the box office and being universally praised by critics and fans alike. Clearly, Japan is tapping into something that we're just not getting here in the West that fans are itching for. But even before that, earlier in the year, like I said previously, we had the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which Nintendo was very hands-on in the development of and is inherently a Japanese production, a Japanese creation. So whatever it is that Japan is doing, Disney and all these other studios should be learning from rather than trying to fight against. But clearly they haven't been doing that, as you can tell by the way their films have been performing at the box office, again losing quite literally over $1 billion. Yoshiyuki Tomino, who is known for originally creating the long-running Gundam franchise, was interviewed where he shared his insights into the anime industry. Tomino believes anime to be in a golden age of sorts, one that could easily be destroyed if the industry were to follow in the footsteps of Disney. Now, anime isn't a golden age. In fact, as somebody who grew up watching anime in the 90s and, quite frankly, being picked on for it because it was not exactly very cool to be a nerd in the 90s, especially to be a weeb, a filthy otaku. Those words weren't even written into existence yet. You were just bullied for being a flat-out nerd. Yeah, anime wasn't mainstream, and it's pretty cool to now be just about 30 and seeing a bunch of younger individuals who are all into anime and not getting beat up for it. It's nice to see. I took my lumps so that you could shop at Hot Topic in peace, little child. That being said, anime is absolutely in a golden age. You can pop on Netflix, you can pop on Hulu, Amazon, you can take to the high seas, and there's anime galore. Some people's first anime could be something obscure that I've never even heard of because I'm an old head that only watches old 80s and 90s anime. Or you could go through and watch something like One Piece live action and that introduce you to the world of anime. Who knows? When Netflix has its own category that's just Netflix original anime, clearly it's made it mainstream. That has made a lot of individuals really interested. New, old, young, I mean, it doesn't matter. Anime has been exploding and I love to see it. But that being said, just like with anything that becomes mainstream, there is the chance, nay, the inevitability that there's going to be some dilution to it. It's going to get diluted to something that just isn't the same anymore. When I watch anime nowadays, so much of it feels generic, like they just don't care about the product they're putting out, which is what a lot of people feel about Disney. So when they say that they're going to follow in the footsteps of Disney, they run that risk. I think some aspects of anime are already there. The veteran creator believed that modern Disney is the result of when animation loses heart, and criticized his transition from hand-drawn animation to the digital in the interview with FullFrontal.moe. Tomino also labeled Disney's latest films as depressing and boring, and explained these poor results are likely due to their production goals. Boring is an excellent word, because what has Disney been doing as of late? The same old that they've always done. I mean, what it was turning red, really. Like, yeah, that movie wasn't a remake or anything, but did it teach you a lesson you hadn't been taught before? Was there anything interesting about the animation? Why weren't people going in droves to see it? Why did it get dumped on a streaming service? Like, you can't really blame COVID. Spider-Man No Way Home is Disney. That came out in theaters, and that made oodles of cash. So, no, it just was flat out boring. There was nothing new or interesting. But when they're not doing original projects that are just lackluster, they're doing these live action remakes that nobody is asking for and nobody has anything positive to say about except for the hardest of the Disney shills. I mean, yeah, I get it, the Lion King remake made over $1 billion, but you'll be hard pressed to find somebody that actually can give you something good about that film, something they like about that film, especially more than the original. Same with Aladdin, Maleficent, The Little Mermaid, the list goes on. The upcoming Snow White, it's gonna bomb. Everyone knows it's gonna bomb. And you can't just say it's the racist right-wing trolls that don't like that they've got a dark-skinned Snow White. Just nobody wants to see a remake of a film from 1937 that genuinely started Disney's career. But at the end of the day, Disney's gonna blame it on, well, you know what. But thankfully, Japan doesn't see it that way. The Gundam creator asserted that Bandai Namco Filmworks, who handles the Gundam series, is already picking up on Disney's bad practices, what with it attempting larger products while straying away from traditional animation. And I've said this time and time again, don't get me wrong, there are times when CGI anime, they can work, they can be good. I mean, I loved Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which was the first all CGI, all, computer rendered Dragon Ball movie. And you know what? It was a bit jarring at first, then about 5 minutes in, my eyes adjusted, I got used to it. There's been a few anime that have sparingly used CGI, and it works, but as a whole, I don't want to see that. In fact, I want to see crisp, OG, hand-drawn animation using cells, for God's sake. Now, I know that's something we'll probably never go back to. All anime is going to be done on a computer in some way, shape, or form, but the heart of what he's getting at is true. There's a little warmth that just comes off the canvas, comes off the page, comes off the screen when you see something that someone drew and colored, and they had to do it over and over as they flipped through the pages to make it move. You just don't get that when using computers. So yeah, I completely appreciate what he's saying, and I really don't want anime to stray from traditional animation. Also, it just leaves a sort of generic vibe. How many times have you watched an anime, then watched another, then watched a third, and they all just sort of look the same? I'm getting real tired of that. As somebody who has seen over 400 different anime, I want to love it, and I want to stay invested in the medium and stay invested in this art form that I've been appreciating for almost 30 years now. But now that everything's a bit homogenized with the use of computers, clearly we've got this, this boy is onto something. Empty blockbusters without any personality is how Tomino described Disney as a brand, and he explained that creators must be permitted to experiment, while executives like producers have to get their hands dirty when developing a project. And no one is allowed to experiment anymore, at least not here in the West. No one wants to take a chance on something that isn't a superhero movie or a horror film because, well, horror films are cheap. You can take a chance on that because, you know what, if it bombs, it only costed $10 million. But a superhero movie is going to make up for that loss. A Disney live-action remake will hypothetically make up for that loss. There's no experimentation. That's why I think that 2024 actually looks like a good year for film. When you've got movies like, I think it's Mickey 13, which ironically enough, not a Disney movie, despite Mickey being in the name. And then you've got Dune Part 2. There's some stuff to look forward to in 2024 that seems out there, that seems experimental. Argyle, I bet Argyle is going to be an absolute blast. But, well, what's Disney doing? Aside from probably touching little kids behind the scenes. That being said, we've got him saying many have negatively... Oh, sorry, this isn't him saying it. This is the article editorializing. Many have negatively criticized Disney's works in the last few years on a number of different levels, be it with Star Wars and its disrespecting the lore, to just disrespecting fans in general. And that's a big component. Disrespecting the fans in general. Now, that's something that I, as an anime fan, I've not seen. I haven't seen anime or anime creators go out of their way to disrespect their fan bases, the people that actually buy the products, the people that allow the products to be made because they are making money off of it. Now, I have seen a lot of Western translators and Western studios that do the dubbing and such. They've gone out of their way to attack fans to the point where I've actually seen a couple of anime studios step in and say, you gotta knock that off. This is bad for our brand, bad for our product. But it doesn't happen often enough. And we're seeing Western dubbed anime, again, homogenized into this safe, regurgitated crap where they start adding things that weren't there before. Adding certain pronouns, adding certain context that was not there in the original anime to make it more palatable to Western sensibilities. I remember watching anime in the 90s, and that shit was censored, let me tell you. But then we got to this point where, hey, it's on streaming. We don't gotta worry about censorship anymore, and we started getting the most raw, close to the original source material adaptations as we could. And now it's like we're back in the 90s and they're censoring again, only they're censoring it for political and social thought reasons, not for anything like violence or nudity, but because these words could be offensive because the Japan has a different social structure, different hierarchies, and different ways of handling certain situations than in the West. And by God, we don't want to be deemed transphobic because of a trap in an anime. All in all, Yoshiyuki Tomino is entirely correct here. Anime is in danger of falling into that same pattern of what Disney's done, but I like that he's not shy about calling out Disney by name. For so many years now, all of us have been saying that Japan is where we're getting all of our best content, whether it be anime, video games, manga. I mean, it's all there. It's uncensored, it's based, it's just got so many ideas that you're not gonna see here in the West because Disney and others like Disney have diluted any sort of creativity in the form of social and economic and absolutely political pandering. And if Japan has to follow that route, we've already seen Square Enix at one point say that they're going to start making games for a worldwide audience. We've seen them start to censor some of their female characters or change lines in video games. That's not the Japan that most of us weebs fell in love with, and that's not the Japan that we're going to want to support with our hard-earned dollars. So, yeah, I'm making this video not only because it's absolutely hilarious to see an anime creator lambaste Disney, it's also deserved for these hardworking animators and people who have gone on to make some of the greatest animated works of the modern age lambaste Disney, considering many of them were actually inspired by Disney. Yes, a lot of Japanese anime was inspired by the golden age of Disney animation. You wouldn't have a lot of the anime you have now without animation techniques that they actually did borrow from early age Disney. So to see them turn on Disney and state that you're screwing up, the studio, the company that we admired, that taught us so much, has become boring, bland, predictable, and worst of all, safe. Well, then again, maybe worst of all is all the political pandering and child touching, but worst of all, safe. Yes, I love seeing Japan do that, and I also love seeing them have the wherewithal to acknowledge they're falling into this same trap, because they caught it early, which means that maybe there's a chance they can walk back out of it. That might not mean us in the West are going to get the good Western releases that actually have that stuff walked back. Nah, we're still going to get the safe, homogenized version that the dubbing companies or the censors decide to change and alter because, you know, the West has already been lost. But I hope the same doesn't befall Japan. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about anime or Disney, but really anything nerdy. Video games, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon. It's all here in the nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.